Do you want to know why writers are artists? Because writers have the power of narrative, and the power of narrative is incredibly strong. What separates the people who will succeed from the people who won't succeed in the art industry are the people who understand and take full advantage of that power of narrative. I never really thought anyone would see my art. In earlier days, under different usernames, I would upload art to Instagram without any hashtags just because I didn't have the confidence to, which is pretty funny to say. My art wasn't, I think, as advanced as it is now back then, but nonetheless, I didn't want to understand the algorithms. I didn't want to react to anyone or anything, even obligation, which is so weird to say. There are so many things behind the psyche of not being confident in that area. I don't want to go into that. But my point is, I think there are so many people out there with incredible talent and incredible opportunity. They just hesitate to find that opportunity, which is kind of sad when you think about it. But I think a lot of people get intimidated on how to approach that. And I would say, if you are teasing yourself about the idea, tickling the idea of putting your art out there, and you don't know where to start or have the tools, I'm going to tell you, it's the power of narrative. Because a lot of people don't understand that when you are starting to show your art to people, you won't get traction at first. You have to be someone who is around. Think of it this way. Social media is like a social platform, right? But only digital. Yet some of the psyche of people, how they think and how they operate, the connections people talk about are somewhat similar. You know, if you're someone who's, let's say, just less social in real life, you don't engage with groups as much, you don't talk as much. If you're more so minding your own, even if you're creating amazing art, you know, in the corner of the room, no one's going to see it. No one's going to get curious what you're doing. And honestly, you may meet 10, 15 people who see you drawing every day and nobody looks at your art. But think if you go to a cafe, right? Think you go to that cafe maybe 5 times a week, or you just visited that cafe 5 times. The likelihood that, hey, I think I've seen that person before, the likelihood somebody is going to notice that is way higher. And the likelihood that somebody's going to ask about your art, walk over, start a conversation with you, increases the more that you show up to the cafe. Also, people who perform at cafes, let's say you're playing guitar or you're playing piano, those who are louder, who are not afraid to be the center of attention, most likely will get the attention at the cafe. But even they have to go a certain way about it. That person may have to make a reservation, talk to the cafe owners. They have to create a vibe, ambiance, atmosphere for the people who are sitting in the cafe to enjoy what they're doing. And that person, through trial and error or experimentation or absorbing what other performers or artists have done at other cafes, they can get a sense for what is correct for that environment. And social media is this way too, because if somebody markets themselves very loudly, very obnoxiously, most of the time people don't want anything to do with it. They go buy it as fast as they can. But there's an art to it. And when you first start putting your art out there, I'm learning this too because I'm new, but I want to share with you this. When you're learning to put your art out there, it's not that you lack the skill. it's not that you can't go anywhere. You're implementing a new way of thinking and behaving with the art. Art goes from technical skill to technical and communication skills when you start posting it. And a lot of brilliant, talented, and amazing people in this world who do phenomenal work think, I have to be one or the other. A technical person, someone who is good at math, like the stereotypical geek or nerd, so smart, but he can't talk to anyone, he's so awkward. Or the guy who can get along with everyone, is just a social butterfly, but is a ditz, has like no brains, doesn't really do a whole lot. I'm not sure what the stereotypes in people's heads are. Either way, people think that you're good with people, or you're good at one thing and so you're not good at the other. But the people who succeed are the people who implement both. And I truly believe a large barrier to something like that starts with narrative. The narrative you tell yourself. The narrative of, I'm afraid to post something and it flops, and then people see it flops over and over again. How embarrassing. No one's ever going to notice. It's sort of like, okay, well, a lot of us have been there, and pretty much anyone who has ever had any success has been there. It's so funny because I used to be so afraid of failure, and oftentimes when I'm posting something new, it flops, it fails, but that's the journey, right? You have to get an intuition for what works for you and what doesn't. When you're first making friends, or you first go to a cafe, you have to understand the kinds of people who will be your friends, or you have to kind of find the places where what you're doing is appreciated. But that also comes with, being around and making connections. What you tell yourself is so important. Don't think, and then don't tell yourself, well, I'm so good at art, but I could never do what, that content creator is doing. Or people don't like my art. They just think I'm fun to talk to, or I'm never appreciated for what I do. And this is not true. One thing about art, I will say this, is when you first dive into the art community, it's so funny because you start to realize something. You're like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm seeing this one person post about the same art piece 5 times, because they're showing you the works in progress. So many people who are new to this think, I have to put the most polished piece out there. It has to be so good. Like, if it's not good, no one's going to like me. No one's going to follow me. That's not true. That's actually pretty far from true. Most people like seeing the human behind the art. And that's how they get connected, because there are so many people out there who put out art, and it may not be what you consider the best. And there are so many people who are actually looking for connection in a way. And art online becomes a medium for connection. It's not why they like you. It's an icebreaker, a segue. Now, will they like what you do? Yes, they can appreciate it. And that may bring people in, but you're not selling your art when you start a social media account. You're selling yourself in a way. And your art is a great representation of who you are, or how your personality or the things you say might resonate with somebody else. So I just want to point out a bit how this works, because I am also a writer, and I think a lot of the times being a writer and having the words is a lot about providing people perspective as well. I don't know if I've ever said this yet, but I truly believe that words can be tools as well. And some people just have to say the right thing the right way for it to click for somebody else. And I'm hoping to do that for some people out there, because I've been there. I've had so many people try to convince me to follow my dreams. And yes, it's difficult. But if you understand the power of narrative, saying, I am someone who can figure this out. It's going to be tough. It's going to be hard, but I am not too shy to try this. Or you say, I have the skill, I'm already doing the work. I just need to learn how to talk to people, or I just need to understand that a flop doesn't mean a failure when I put out a post and it doesn't get views. It just means I'm trying new things. When you start saying that I am doing this too, you begin doing it. Like, even if your post doesn't get a lot of views at first, or it doesn't perform the way you want it to, you are already doing it. It's not imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome, I think, is a side effect, but also proof that you're doing it. Because I think, like, everyone has to kind of get to a point where they realize that the imposter they feel like, you're just at a different skill level. Let's say, like, you start as beginner. Well, like, I'm a beginner. What's something that is a beginner? Like, I'm a beginner swordsman. But you don't say, like, I'm a samurai or something. You just say, I want to be a samurai. And so instead of saying, I'm someone who wants to be a samurai, when you start working on samurai skills, you say, I'm a beginner samurai. So stupid. I don't know what to say. So... The biggest obstacle you will face when you start doing this is yourself. And I haven't gotten to a point where I'm facing more challenges that come on top of content creating, but I just wanted to share this with you because I have met a lot of people, even in my following, that are incredibly talented. I have friends and family around me who, if they just run, like if they just learn to go for what they believe in, like they would do so well. They just don't understand these things take time, and it does involve investing time in pattern recognition. And think of it this way too. Like, think of it this way. If you want people to enjoy the things that you are doing, you can't just be like a taker. Like, you can't just take their attention and then live on the glory of it. You have to kind of immerse yourself in the art community, because you have to be someone who gives as well. Like, give your attention to somebody, give them a like, give a interesting comment. You have no idea how far a compliment or a detailed acknowledgement of somebody's work will go for them, you know? And recognizing that connection online is about giving while also receiving, and just keeping that cycle with people good. Like, when you realize that, how important that is, and actually how much more fun it makes the process, because you're not alone, you know, like, hey, I'm working on something and I see that you're working on something. You begin to have a bit more fun, and it becomes a lot less scary, because suddenly all of those thousands of people, all those numbers that were like, they aren't me, you're like, oh my gosh, these people, these people are like me. And you know, and that's just really nice. So if you are hesitant about sharing your art, I implore you, give it a go, because you're already doing the work, and you will find motivation and empowerment in that. You'll think to yourself, I did that. And when you can look back on it, you'll be like, well, what's stopping me from trying the next thing? I already did something I thought was impossible. And all of these people out here are just, they're really just like flailing in the water just like me, and we're having a darn good time. So work on your power of narrative. You can do it. You are capable. So many people have done it. I know you can do it. I believe in you. You're freaking awesome. Even if you don't know where to start flailing with us. come to the flail party. Okay? I love you guys, so please take care. I'll catch you later.